this like gets straight through to the point of, hey, a real person said this about this company, and it's going to convince them to like trust us more. So I think more people should be doing this. I think there's a ton of value in Facebook ad comments, from your prospects to customers. Like you can take it and even utilize it for um, like questions that people are asking, so that you can like make an FAQ section out of these things. These are questions that a lot of our people are asking, and here are answers to them. There's a lot that can be done with this, and we've done it across all of our brands now, and it's working.
And now, let's take a listen to the Scalability School podcast.
All right, welcome to the first episode of Scalability School. We're so excited that you're here. First of all, thank you for listening, everybody. My name is Andrew Foxwell, and here we've got Brad and Zach. Guys, introduce yourselves.
I'm Brad. I'm the owner of Work Marketing and also own an ecom brand on the side. I've been doing digital marketing my entire professional career. Owned the agency for about 6 years. Been on the brand side for almost a full year now. And yeah, excited to dig into this with you guys.
Likewise. Zach Stuck. I am the founder of Homestead, a growth marketing agency that's been in business for about 5 years. And then the founder and CEO of Easy Street Brands, which is now the portfolio brands that I oversee. One of them being Hollow, which is the main brand in the portfolio right now.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have all of you. And my name is Andrew Foxwell. I run the Foxwell Founders Community, a group of 540 digital marketers from 30 countries around the world that are arguably the best group of digital marketers that exist. Spend an average of about 400 million a month just on Meta, all of us together. And Zach and Brad are both in that group. So we're excited to have all of you here today listening to this first episode where we're hoping to drop value. We're definitely going to continue to bring guests on this podcast. We're going to ensure that you walk away from each of these podcasts with actionable things that you can take and steal and like do in your business immediately. That's the whole idea. Is to give you actionable, non-fluff tactics that can improve your business right away. So that's really the whole hypothesis. So let's go ahead and get into it right out of the gates. So number one, we have CRO and PDP image optimization. Zach, let's get into this. Brands kind of over-focusing on ad creative and overlook PDPs, right? So what's the tactic here that you want to share?
So this is one that we've been running more frequently and more recently with all of our brands across the portfolio. But the thesis is we started looking into heat maps and click maps on our websites, and specifically on our product pages. We were trying to figure out, okay, if we are going to improve conversion rate on each of these pages, what is the things that we need to be focusing on? What are the things that customers are actually viewing? So for most direct consumer brands, the majority of your traffic is mobile. So we are looking at mobile heat maps in click maps. The one thing that we noticed for all of the brands in our portfolio is that people were just absolutely hammering the images, or even just trying to scroll through the images on your product page. Now, with that being said, we weren't putting enough emphasis on these images. We kind of just like chalked it up. We made these images. We knew that they needed to be kind of like designed, hit on some value props, hit on some benefits, but definitely not enough attention there. So we ran a A/B test when we launched this for Hollow. It was 3,000 orders, 99.9% stat sig. And with brand new images in this carousel, and pulling those images out from just the carousel and actually having the thumbnails below on that image, we saw a 20% lift in conversion rate. Just like absolutely massive lift that blew us away. So now every single person, every brand that I'm talking to, I'm like, hey, have you redesigned your images? Are you thinking about your images for your product page? Because if not, like, go spend some time on that.
So what did they look like before? They were like no tech on them, pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, we had the classic, so first image, product image on white, second image, product image with a couple arrows with some value props, third image, maybe like a customer photo, nothing crazy. We knew that they were important, but we didn't know how important that they were. So essentially the way that we're thinking about this now, and I think that this is how everyone should think or like process it, and when they're trying to figure out what goes in here, is we started to design sections for our product page that were basically the 4 or 5 reasons of things that we needed to convince people of why to buy our product. So for Hollow specifically, we know durability is a big thing. We know social proof and making sure other people that are buying is a big thing for us. Um, that like what makes our product unique, which is the fact that we make our socks out of alpaca yarn is a big thing. So we took like the 3 to 5 kind of core reasons that we know work in ads, work on landing pages. Now are going to be sections on our product page, and we turn those into the images up above. So you could essentially get a summary of all the content if you were to scroll on the product page right within those images. So it's really just trying to simplify and like provide as much of that like high punchy content that we know consumers want to learn about just right within that carousel.
So is it just, do you think it's because it's showing on mobile? Like it's right there. It's easy for them. Is that the biggest part of it? Like what percentage of the
Well,
traffic that you're coming through there is mobile?
yeah, I mean, we're like 75 for most of our brands, so the majority. We do lean a little bit older, so there's like some tablet and some desktop, but the majority of it, especially the conversion, like conversion within a 24-hour period, they see an ad, they go to a landing page, they convert is like almost all mobile. So for us, like the first thing was okay, we designed new images, we launched it, we're like, oh wow, this improved a lot. But then the second really add-on that I think a lot of people do need to do, especially if you have a older demo, is having those thumbnails of those images below the hero image so that they can actually click through them and see that there's more of them. The little dots don't do enough. The arrows alone on just that main image doesn't do enough. So having those thumbnails is a key part of why we saw such a big lift. Cool.
Yeah, I know you run a lot of traffic through landers as well. So is most of the traffic still going through a lander, maybe kind of custom to hunters, for example, because I know that's a big demo for you, and then going to PDP? Or is there
Yeah.
any other way that you could consider, messing with these images related to the demo?
Yeah, so 95% of the traffic for Hollow still, which we're spending high 6 figures a month on meta ads, is going to a landing page. 95%. Only 5% is going to collection or homepage, which is pretty wild, right? Um, and the majority of those are just like a mixture of reasons why: listicles, formats, advertorials. Like there's a few different things that we run, and then we push them to either a collection page or a product page. So I mean, by the time that they hit a product page, they should be fairly sold on the idea that, okay, this is what the product is. But like to reiterate, hey, if they didn't read the landing page and they just click through the CTA button, it's like, okay, well, we're going to re-hit them with those same 5 reasons essentially that we would have in a listicle or, fully written out in an advertorial. So that's kind of how we think about it, is like hit them, hit them, hit them, hit them on the landing page, hit them in the ad, hit them on the PDP.
You can almost assume that they didn't read the listicle based on a 20% lift in conversion rates. Like they missed something. they missed something that was on the page because that information's probably all there to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the biggest thing that we realized is that they just weren't scrolling. They weren't scrolling on the product page. They were just sitting in that buy box section on mobile. I think it was like 80% of people were only getting to the second section on our PDPs, which is wild. And you think if 20% of the people see that section and 10% make it all the way to the bottom to see the reviews, and our conversion rate's 6-7%, like maybe that's just the people that are converting. So how do we get more of those people, of the 80% that don't scroll, to see more of that content that should help them convert?
I appreciate the idea. I mean, one of the general theses that we had for this podcast was like, we're all texting each other all the time anyway. And so this was an idea to bring you as the listeners into a lot of this. So a lot of this is not very fancy in terms of production. It's not very, crazy in terms of, something that we have dialed in. We're just trying to make sure that you are getting the idea that you can go and transfer it right away, and that you're privy to what we're talking about on a daily basis. So that's just a general, concept that we want to make sure we put forth for those of you that are listening. Number 2, second idea that we have, Brad: low effort review image ads. This is unedited customer review images and captions consistently outperforming polished ads. Give us the tea on this one, my friend.
What if I told you that you could get ads that perform better than UGC for way cheaper? Would you be interested in that?
No.
Yes, I'm very interested.
Cool. Sweet. So yeah, something that we do with basically everybody that we work with, we do this for our internal brands as well. We go to the top products and we basically just download every single image or a lot of the images straight from the reviews, and we roll them into the ad account straight up. One of the things that we do along with that is you take the copy for the review, unedited, like graphical error or grammatical errors and all, and just like load them into the body of the text inside of Meta and just let it rip. So review images as is, text as is, loaded into the ad account. And that seems to work extremely well. Time and time again, I've seen it become some of the top spenders, if not the top spending ads. If I had a thesis as to why, or theses, or however you phrase that, Andrew, it's because like it just looks organic, right? And like I think there's value to having ads that break through the noise and don't look like they're part of the feed. But I think there's also value into like having ads that seem like they're part of the feed experience. To give you an example of where this worked, I went and pulled one recently where over the course of the last year, we had a client where we launched their original review image as is, and since then it spent about $15,000, which like at the time for the amount that it spent was quickly became a top spender. We took the top headline from another ad, we meshed them together, still pretty organically edited. Looks like somebody maybe edited it on like an Instagram story post and reposted it. And that individual iterated version has spent $190,000 since then. So 10 times the spend. But like we wouldn't have done that second version had we not known that review image had potential.
I wished you would have told me about this sooner. You were like, "Oh no, we do this all the time for every client." I'm like, "Why have you been holding on to this, Brad? This is so annoying." So yeah, we did the same thing for what it's worth. You told us about this in the group chat, I don't know, a week ago. We launched it for Hollow. Of course, it's working. I think the like special sauce of it is really taking the review, grammatical errors, random words that people, real customers use, and putting that in the ad copy and even using that as like headlines. I think that's like the secret sauce to it too. It's like, yeah, the image definitely feels like your Aunt Sally posted it in your feed and it's going to be like, really yellow and kind of crappy. So you might like stop and be like, what is this? And then you're also going to read it because the words that are used are just like not standard ad copy.
Right. And like getting them is super easy. So just to like bring it home with how can you do this? We literally like once a quarter for at least for our internal brands, clients, we don't do this as often for. But like even if you have your automated reviews set up and collecting images and videos, that's great. But every single quarter, you can prepare a plain text email that says, hey, we'll give you free product. Like subject line, do you want free blank? Here's the product. They open it up and it says basically, if you leave an image review, we'll give you one free product. And this is what we do for our internal brand because the cost of it's very cheap. If they leave an image review, we'll give them one free product. If they leave a video review, we'll give them 2 free products. We get a way better response than our normal kind of like judge me flow on top. And on top of that, you also get the images. Now, like I think there's probably some legal parameters you want to consider. So maybe ask your attorney about like what you should be saying. Because I think there's some considerations that customers are supposed to say like, hey, we're not asking them to leave a good review. We're just saying leave an image. So they're not like coaxing them into that necessarily, but it's super cheap, right? So like the cost of the product to us, inclusive of shipping, is $20 to $50 when you're going and paying UGC creators, which are worthwhile, don't get me wrong, but you can get a $50 ad that cranks, and in this case, spent $190,000 plus and growing for $50.
Yeah, the legal thing is an important thing. I think everyone should definitely look into that. There's something to be said though about free, like if you're giving it to them for free versus like paying them to post a review. I think that's where it starts to get extra gray. But yeah, I mean, this is a no-brainer. We do send the same type of thing, free product for image review now. Thanks to Brad making me realize I'm an idiot not doing this sooner. But yeah, this is awesome. I mean, I think especially if you're a small brand and you don't have a ton of budget for creative, this is just a no-brainer to add 10 more image ads to your Facebook account every month.
Let's talk a little bit more about social proof as an idea of Facebook comments as social proof on landers. I mean, this is something I think we've done a little bit of, we've heard about, or like take review, obviously put reviews on there, but not like the actual Facebook comments themselves. Can you talk about how you're doing this, Zach, and what this looks like in terms of putting it on the landers?
Yeah, I think it started with us just kind of talking about what is the best version of social proof and what do people actually read and what do they think is like BS, right? So I think general consumers are getting smarter and have gotten smarter. There's more direct consumer brands. There's more like direct response marketers out there than there ever has been. So I think people are like kind of reading into more of what's on the page. The biggest thing that we were talking about is like testimonials. I think most customers think they're kind of BS. If the image feels a little bit off, they're like, okay, this is just made up. Reviews are a really good spot, to Brad's point. Like I think that, utilized in like ads, it's a great thing. But comments on Facebook, they're coming from the platform. They know exactly what the UI looks like. It feels very real. It feels like, oh, there's no way this brand can make this shit up because it is actually what someone said. And it's a true Facebook comment that's just screenshotted. So that was like one of the things that kind of came up during like a strategy session with our team is like, okay, Facebook comments feel very real. To Brad's point, like there's mistakes in them. People say wild stuff. Like let's try to utilize those more. So of course, using them in like Facebook image ads, even video ads is like kind of well known. People have done this, but what people aren't doing enough of, and what we started doing, and even if you go look at Hollow's like ad library and go look at our landers, you're going to see it. Is we're taking screenshots of like really well written and just like easy to read and very punchy Facebook comments, screenshotting them, putting them into our lander around product UGC kind of style images. And the intent here is like, okay, instead of doing like a classic testimonial in a box with an image, quotes, da da da, da verified customer, whatever, any of that BS, this like gets straight through to the point of, hey, a real person said this about this company, and it's going to convince them to like trust us more. So I think more people should be doing this. I think there's a ton of value in Facebook ad comments, from your prospects to customers. Like you can take it and even utilize it for like questions that people are asking, so that you can like make an FAQ section out of these things. These are questions that a lot of our people are asking, and here are answers to them. There's a lot that can be done with this, and we've done it across all of our brands now, and it's working.
I mean, it's so interesting. Like the tie between, number one, I think thematically in terms of advice that's really actionable, so much of it centers on landing pages. I feel like it's and CRO, and I feel like over time, because we all came from, or a lot of us came from the world of being Facebook marketers and being like meta marketers first, right? That's where the optimizations sit that we feel and talk a lot about. And so we sit in that and talk about, all right, creative optimization, creative velocity, hooks, etc. And there's this whole other piece to it. And we know this, but it's like it does get ignored. And sitting in the minutia of landing page optimization and trying to connect those two worlds is where so much can be had. I mean, we're not talking about complicated stuff here necessarily,
No.
right?
No.
And I think that's a really interesting piece that we think about the flow of like, what does your funnel look like? I remember one time, Zach, sitting in a meeting with you and you were pitching and you were talking to somebody and you were like, I can promise you if I just look at your funnel, I'm going to find like at least 10 things, and I've never even seen your funnel on an intro call. And it's like, and I think that's true. You can look and see all these opportunities even if you never talk about the meta aspect at all of like how easy is it to actually just like put something in your cart and make a purchase on your phone. Like it's actually quite cumbersome for most people. So I think this one of that validation of the Facebook landing, the Facebook comments is huge. And utilizing that real connection from real people, like it's in, and as long as it's real, I think you're good, right? I mean, as long as it's really genuine, I think you're solid.
Yeah, and I do have to give a shout out. I don't know if you're watching the video version of this, you will see Ryan Doney, the CRO landing page goat, just literally walked behind me and sat down. He must be taking a call.
Felt the vibes.
Yeah, he knew he knew we were talking about landers.
The CRO expert in the Foxwell founders community as well, Ryan Doney.
Yeah, shout out to Ryan, and a little shout out to PageDeck. It's a great tool that we use for all of our homestead clients for landing pages. But yeah, I mean, some of these things are coming from Ryan, basically just trying to like, he's thinking about landing pages all day, and he's like, what are the things that like dumb this down even more? Because I think a lot of brands get so obsessed with the design of these pages, and they're like, oh, it has to match my website, it has to match my vibe. No, dumb it down. I think like if I'm just going to throw out one other concept that I think everyone should test is truly make a landing page that's just text. We just launched this for one of our brands. It's literally just text, no images, just text, a headline, couple paragraphs, and a CTA button at the bottom of it, and it's absolutely ripping. You'd be surprised at like how dumbing these things down and just making it easy to like understand what's going on can be really helpful. I mean, one other thing that I think is just really funny, obviously all of us have friends outside of ecom that don't look at these things all day. I was in the Twin Cities with one of my good friends, and I had him looking at the new Hollow website that we're about to launch. And he was like, I was like, just explain what you're kind of like thinking about and whatever. And he was like, well, can I click on this, or can I click on that, or can I click on this? I'm like, no, you can't click on any of those things. That's not going to do anything. So I think there's things as simple as like making sure that on your landing pages, like things don't look like buttons. This ties a bow and like really brings us back to why these Facebook comments work. It's because the UI consumers are used to. So let's make it as simple as possible. Let's keep the UIs like used to what they're looking at, and conversion rate should go up.
Yeah. Have you tried like comment reply type ads where you guys like pull up an actual like comments. It's popular on TikTok. It's just like an organic theme where it's like brands are addressing questions that people are asking. I feel like it's somewhat an extension of that. Not to go against what Andrew was just saying about how landers are super important and we often ignore them for ads, but I'm back to the ads.
Yeah.
But it's like we see this work really well all the time. For example, we had a client that they launched a holiday related product, and it was like the founder in the warehouse, and he posted it as a story, and it was a 2-part story. And we had downloaded both versions of the videos, and I think we accidentally uploaded the second one once as like, okay, the story didn't make sense because it was kind of like in the middle of showing it. It's like, this is $50, whatever. And that crushed. It was easily the best ad in that entire period. And like, had we not made a small mistake on like how to launch it, and it was just like it was just like chill in the warehouse, like answering those questions. I feel like sometimes just like addressing questions and comments like can be a really thoughtful way of also dumbing it down. It's just like really simply answering exactly what people are asking.
Brandon, my head of performance creative, has had a request for me to go shoot an ad in our warehouse answering ad comment questions for like 3 months. I just haven't done it yet. So
You got to do it.
yeah, I guess I absolutely have to.
I'm on team Brendan here. So
yeah. Okay, you got to get into this next one, Brad. This like retention campaigns on Meta. Kick us off, and I've got a couple questions for you.
Yeah, so we for a long time, I think a lot of people in D2C kind of look at Meta as like new customer acquisition, and any platform is new customer acquisition. We're spending money to acquire new customers, and we don't want to spend money to target people that we have on the email list. Like we can send them an email, we can send them a text. It's a lot cheaper in theory than retargeting or running ads to them on Meta. We've tested this out a little bit this year in a few different brands. And just to give one example, we have a client that they have like a pretty extensive catalog. I wouldn't say it's like hundreds of products, but it's like tens of products. They're releasing new products on somewhat of a regular cadence, like maybe monthly. And they're pretty mature in their segment. Now, it doesn't mean that they're like the biggest brand of all time. It just means like they've reached a lot of people in their demo. And so we set up a retention campaign. The specifics of it is we are targeting people who haven't purchased within 90 days. And for them, the 90-day definition is intentional. It's because if you pass that 90-day window, you're pretty unlikely to come back. You're not opening emails. Maybe you unsubscribed. You're not responding to literally any other type of marketing. So we're going to hit you again with an ad. We are using 1-day click specifically and min ROAS. The reason for the min ROAS is mostly because the size of that list is not massive. We want to control the volume on a day-to-day basis. And because the variability in the pricing or the price of the products, we're using a little bit of everything. It's top ads across the catalog and just letting it rip. And it's crushing. They're up 100% year over year in repeat customer revenue. It's more efficient than their acquisition, as you'd expect. And that's kind of what we hold it accountable to anyways. And like it's just driving insane margin for them. You know, their contribution margin has doubled year over year as a result of this. And like it just rips. And so for brands that are kind of in that same space where they have a lot of history and or not even a ton of history, but it's like people are not coming back because they're not opening your emails anymore. It's just been low cost way to get some folks back in the door.
I feel like this is something we used to do all the time in terms of Meta, and we just haven't because of the way that things have been structured with ASCs and everything else. So it's good to hear this. Is this across, like you're using this in most of your accounts that have a catalog? And if they don't have a catalog, like what else are you doing to take care of these folks?
Yeah, is it DPA or just ads? Like
Good. Yeah, glad you asked that. I'm using catalog in the wrong way, in the non-traditional Facebook way. You can use a DPA. I think that works totally fine. When I say catalog, I meant like their actual product availability across their store. We're using top ads specifically. So things that have worked really well, particularly for, like some of the newer products in the last year or two, featuring those a little bit more prominently, because people that have been on the list for 5 years, like might not know that those exist otherwise. And we're kind of using that as the way to get people back in the door. So DPA can work, but we see it usually works better with like proper creative. Like you have to go reacquire those people basically is like the mindset. That said, like you should hold it accountable to a little bit of a higher efficiency target because you probably already paid to acquire them previously. You don't want to just reacquire them again at break even unless, you're like Zach and you know that when people come and buy a second time, like that the chances they buy a third time is really, really high. I know you mentioned that for Hollow recently.
Basically, my entire strategy to growth marketing is Brad tells me things that are working for him and I just copy and paste or just like screenshot it and drop it
Vice
to
versa.
Growth Max.
Vice versa.
So we launched this 2 days ago, and to like give you rough numbers, I mean the spend's not crazy. It's like $1,800 in spend. It spent like $700 yesterday. Half the in-platform CPA of any other campaign. So like we're getting people back that fell off, and these are people that are to what Brad said, right? So this is like traditional CBO setup, not ASC. Like you're definitely adding, true audiences in here. People that have bought that haven't bought again in the last 90 days. Um, and it's just like it's ripping. So,
Yeah. And to your
it's
point,
wild that it's wild that we don't do this. Like, everyone's like, oh no, ASC only, zero exclusion. It's
Got
like they're
about
gonna
it, really,
all
right? Like I
meta
think a lot of people did.
yeah,
yeah.
all meta is remarketing and bottom of funnel. Like, no, but let's
Yeah.
think about getting those people back in the door. So yeah, to your point, Brad, I mean, go for it, and then I'll talk about the second purchase thing.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say, like, I hate the idea of it because it's just like it goes against the way that we've kind of done things, and
Yeah,
but maybe that's what we need to start accepting a little bit. But
yeah,
the one thing I was gonna say about ASC is like I don't love it in ASC because if it generally speaking, and I'm gonna use the word incrementality here, and not that I have like an incrementality test to prove this, I've just seen the numbers work, but like my assumption is that Facebook in platform ROAS is going to be higher on people who are familiar with your brand. And so I don't want my repeat customer revenue tainting my ASC because especially if you're using cost controls, because then it's just going to continue to optimize more for that group of people. And maybe your repeat customer rate suffers a little bit as a result. So that's why I like to split it out is because we want to hold them to different efficiency targets in the platform, basically.
the one thing that we're planning to do with this is also anytime, and this was kind of like the old school playbook. Anytime there's a new product drop, we're just like launching those same ads in that campaign, right? So, anyways, I'm really stoked about this. The one thing that in to kind of like share our perspective on this like second and third purchase thing for Hollow, um, we've just been so focused on growth and like we just forget about, hey, I have these customers that haven't come back and bought again. Everyone talks about LTV. Everyone forgets about LTV. It's the reality. Like everyone forgets about people coming back and what can I do to get people to come back. Um, and this is it's such a simple, easy way to just be like, oh yeah, I can bring 10, 15, 20 customers back every single day at, $500 a day budget. Um, yeah, I mean, for us, like we realized, 15% of customers are coming back and buying again within a 365-day period for Hollow. And for Socks, like that's pretty low and should be better. We're just so focused, and our ad account was structured in a way where it's like we're only focused on new customers. So doing this is just a no-brainer to try and like close that gap of instead of 15% for 365 days, let's try and get 15% for 90 days. So I love this idea.
Before we wrap up, the meta kind of account structures and maybe even a little bit of creative velocity as we get into it. So meta account structure stuff in terms of what do you guys have working? Are we talking about, are just ASCs? Are we talking ABOs for creative testing? What kind of bidding strategies are you guys using generally? Because I feel like right now we're definitely hearing a lot more about CBO and with like min volume on the within there in terms of like creative tests that are running and letting them compete against the winners that are in there. I would say that we always go in the phase of like cost caps working, not working, whatever in that phase, and I feel like kind of we're in 50-50 land right now, from at least what we have, and then at least what Foxwell founder members are seeing. So what do you guys got going? What's working in terms of structures?
Yeah, I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm pretty sure Zach was on Twitter today talking about cost caps and lowest volume with people. So maybe you want to start with what you're seeing.
Well, I mean, the reality is that cost caps can work great and manual bidding can work great. And we use them for a few different reasons. For Hollow, we moved over to them last year in, I want to say like September, because we knew that we only had so much inventory to sell. We knew that we could do like specific numbers and monthly revenue. We knew that our production was like basically just trying to keep up with where we were at. So it was like, okay, well, let's just force profitability then. Why would I run lowest cost and just let Facebook go get me customers at, kind of all different swings when I can just say, stay profitable every single day and put, 20, 30% to the bottom line every day. So that's why we did it first and foremost. Otherwise, I'm still a lowest cost person. I love lowest cost. I think it makes a ton of sense. The reason that we're flipping back now is like inventory is getting in a better spot is the volatility that we've been seeing. So like we literally had a day last week that went from middle of the week, not like this was, I think, what was this last week? There was nothing in the news that day that was that crazy. I mean, like news has been wild lately, but like that day it was like pretty even keel. Day over day, spend dropped $10,000. And we're like, what is happening? Like buyer intent today didn't drop this much off a cliff. And that can be detrimental to your cash flow. So like one thing on our end is like we have, our head of finance is just like on us every day. This is how much you can spend every single day. We kind of know weekends we can scale up. We'll kind of pace back down midweek, and then we'll like that's specifically for Hollow. But dropping $10,000 in ad spend that we weren't anticipating can like completely jack up your cash flow forecast for a week or for a month, even if it holds. So I like the idea of like lowest cost for the fact that we can plan and we can know how much we're going to spend. And if we can have a rough baseline of like CPMs and cost per clicks and traffic and conversion rate, and we have a baseline of those numbers, we should pretty much kind of know where the day is going to land, from just like a cash out perspective. So that right now is kind of what's like really getting to us, is that we had so much volatility that we're starting to shift spend back. So Hollow, I think now is like, I don't know, 70% lowest cost, 30% cost control.
Yeah. And I think like how you're organizing, there's a whole other piece of this, which is like how do you organize the creative tests? And I can go through some of our structure stuff in a second. The creative volume thing is probably a whole separate podcast that we need to think about doing, because
Yes,
I think you guys are cranking out crazy volume. I think we've got a system that's doing really well right now too. Just to quickly touch on our account structure, I agree with a lot of things that you're saying. I think we generally organize things by if we're going to use cost controls, which we do often, we're organizing campaigns by product and then single or very limited ad sets within until we max out that ad set and need to add a second one for more creative, basically. Like that's the reason we add it. And that's because we want to set the cost control relative to the expectation of that campaign. If we have a $50 AOV and we expect that to be the value that somebody's buying on, we want to set our cap relative to that, versus having a product that's $100 and a product that's $50 in the same campaign. Just makes it really hard to kind of predict the outcome there. And just like you don't want to spend $50 to acquire the $50 customer, right? Simplifying it. So organized single campaign by product or by funnel / offer, however you want to define that, is kind of how we do it. We're pretty heavy on cost controls, but I'm not married to that solution. So we bounce around a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, right now, the way that we're structuring things, I'll talk Hollow specifically, for like our internal brands. They're mostly the same. Is like we'll run a cost control in an ASC environment. That seems to have been like the most stable thing for us. Um, and then of course we'll test like target ROAS. That it worked really really well for a period of Q4 and kind of the start of Q1, and then absolutely fell off. So we flip back to caps. This is a thing. Like I think everyone needs to be aware that there are moments where just like meta changes. They change the algorithm. There's just shifts in consumer buying, and the way that these like, technical mechanisms are working can just change dramatically in a few day period. So um it is really frustrating at times, because you're like, hey, I thought I had this repeatable system that's going to work, and Meta will just like rug pull you.
Yeah.
But that's where I think like always being willing to try something. If you're a cost cap person, try target ROAS. If you're a cost cap person, try a lowest cost thing if you have the budget to give it a shot. That said, yeah, I mean, like all of our lowest cost is CBOs. Like we don't run any ABOs right now, which I think is like a big thing that a lot of people are saying, that creative testing and ABOs is the way to go. Meta's even talking about it a little bit. But this is where it's like what works for you works for you. I think like
Yeah.
Andrew, you've talked about this so much I mean, like you have been teaching all of us Facebook ads for the last, I don't know, 7-8 years at this point. And what works for you works for you. So I think it depends on the brand. It depends on things. To Brad's point though, having campaigns specific to products is a no-brainer. If you're not breaking out campaigns by products, because AOVs are going to be different. Consumers buy different products differently, right? So having that set up versus having the crazy volatility of like same campaign, a bunch of different products, a bunch of different collections that you're pushing to, I think it just makes it harder on Meta to try and find consistency. So
Yeah. I think
that's
if you
where we're
have
at right
the
now.
stability of being able to do that with your campaign, as you spend more and you have the catalog it's going, separating those is great. I mean, I think you have to look through the lens of what we know about Meta through all of these pieces. Target ROAS being one of them, right? Works great in Q4 because the volume's there, right? The volume is not there as much. I mean, how many people do you know in the United States, which is, where Meta's most valuable users and buyers are really, and Western Europe, that said, look, I'm going on social media break in Q1. Like, how many people do you know? I mean, I know like 10 I could name,
Yeah.
right, that did that. So I think that DAUs were down, and so that's why we're going back to lowest cost. It makes sense. And that's always been an argument against cost capping right? As because it's a volume game, and there's going to be days where it's good and where it's not, and it's going to go up and down, and there is that volatility, and you have to accept that if that's what you're going to do, which is, it's just like anything else. It's balance. It's never all one thing. It's never all one thing. And it's adaptability, right? And it's being able to kind of make sure that you're shifting across these ideas. I think that's what we'll continue to get to in this podcast of, look, this is an idea of that's today, and this is what we're seeing today. And that's how we all keep each other going. I do want to say, just from an ego standpoint, it's important for me to say that in the scaling course that I released 7 years ago, I put in the social proof lander ideas in the course. It's not a big deal. That is, so, I heard
Sometimes
I heard a Native American saying that all returns in the circling wind. Somebody told me that one time. And so here we are, we're returning to the idea 7 years later.
Yeah. Every idea that you hear on this podcast came from something that Andrew did years ago. So that's
yeah. Well, now that I'm Andrew
old,
did it. Yeah. Andrew did it 7 years ago. Brad's doing it now, and I'm copying Brad. So that's
there you go. I mean, look, that's the thing, right?
And then you can copy me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it is interesting, so as you think about meta campaigns and the structure of this stuff's going to change, and it's important to go through this. But I think, we'll talk about creative testing on another podcast, and creative velocity, which is like a big topic right now. But before we wrap up, guys, anything else that you want to share with the audience? The one thing I'll say is, look, you're listening to this first episode, and if you're listening to this point, I really appreciate it. Email any of us, Andrew@foxwelldigital.com, and we can put the other guys, if they want to, they can say there.
Please don't email.
Or you can maybe your Twitter DMs or whatever. But
you can DM me
back in terms of what else you'd like to hear about, or what else you're curious about, because we want to make sure that this is helpful. Ultimately, that we got together and said, we're doing this. Like, we're just three guys from Wisconsin. Like, also go Pack Go, but we are here to help. Like, that's our whole servant mentality, honestly, with this.
There's a lot of things going on in the news in the world right now. So there's a lot of things we could talk about that I'm probably too stupid to say. So I won't dive too deep into them. So no, I'd say just, thanks for tuning in. And if you have any questions, you can definitely DM me on Twitter.
Yeah, likewise. Andrew is too kind by offering out his email. I'm going to be a little ruder than that. But yeah, hit me up on Twitter if you don't follow me, Zach, I'm Stuck, and then Brad. I'm sure you can share your handle too. But I think last thoughts to kind of tie a bow on this. We are just excited to share what's working inside of the agency businesses, inside of the brand businesses. In a time where things are like pretty manic and kind of crazy. There's all the tariff stuff that's going on right now. Depending on when you listen to this, like, could be, hopefully wrapped up and much better than what it is right now.
Could be 400%. Could be 400%.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know where that's headed, but our goal is to be helpful and just to share the wins. And we feel, I think all three of us could follow the same sentiment, that we just feel very grateful for kind of where we've gotten in our careers and all the people that have supported us and helped us kind of get to this point. So the thesis is to help others and share what's working, so you can just easily copy it and roll it out and make more money.
Well, thank you for listening, everybody. And we'll look forward to having you listen to the next episode of Scalability School.